Well, here we are today, and I am so excited to have my friend JJ Conway in the house.
Woo-hoo.
Thank you, JJ, for coming. And I just had to write some of this down because I knew I would not remember the multitude of things you've done. But we're just going to touch on a few of them because this is primarily focused on our veterans, and you are a U.S. Air Force. We're a lieutenant colonel in the military. And I want you to tell that story, but you got your master's in nuclear engineering and now working on your doctorate strategic leadership, which is so cool, all but your dissertation, which is what the ABD means. You're the owner of Conway Financials, and on top of that, a minister of Abundance Family Life Center, and do so much for so many people. And I am just so privileged to have you with us today. Thank you, JJ, and thank you for your service to our country.
Oh, thank you, Linda. I really appreciate the work that you're doing also in the various communities around you and between us, because it takes a very special person to follow the leading of the Lord and use their voice to help others find their voice and help them overcome. And I just think of all the times that you've supported me in my conferences and things like that. And I'm just very happy to be here. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's just been a privilege. And though I'm not a veteran, I have three brothers who were and have been serving veterans for many years. So I'm just blessed to have this opportunity. And I loved your story when I first heard you tell your story about going into the military and what it was like for you as a Black woman and what they told you and what you did.
Well, I do want to preface that, my expectation going into the military is probably different from a lot of minorities who grew up in the United States, because I grew up as a military brat overseas. And when you're overseas, we're all Americans. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what you look like. We all bleed red, American red blood, right?
Yeah.
And it's not the same in the United States. So when I went to the Air Force Academy, I was really surprised when they said I couldn't declare my major because blacks can't do physics. And I thought the guy's pulling my legs, right? Like, oh, you can't do that. He's like, no, really. And I was like, well, I meet the requirements, so we're going to do this. And this is crazy. This is a crazy part of the story that a lot of veterans, especially women veterans, are going to resonate with. At some point during my studies, I was just struggling so bad. I actually began to believe that maybe he was right. Maybe I couldn't hack it after all. Well, I go into the office of that instructor, and he's like, look, there's nobody else in here, so I'm going to level with you. My job is to get rid of you. If you'll stop coming in here asking for help, I will stop feeding you the wrong answers. And that's my first exposure to what people are willing to do when they feel threatened by someone of another race or another gender or somebody who's just plain different. And so I'm very thankful that I stopped going in his office. The Lord helped me figure it out. I didn't know the Lord at that time, but I know now that he was leading my steps to help me figure it out. And I graduated, #1 space physics graduate, president of the Physics and Astronomy Club, and I went on to do physics in the Air Force for 23 years, and I was the first Black to do so. And so I'm very thankful. And I just look back in your life and you think, wow, one small comment changes your life. And that man's comment really lit a fire under me to prove to him that I can do it. And I've been used many times to change a lot of people's perceptions about what Black and brown people can and can't do. Because a lot of times people don't know that I'm Black until I say something they shouldn't be saying.
Well, it's an amazing story, and thank you for your, what do I call it, stick-to-itiveness. I don't know if that's even a word, but man, very resilient. And speaking of resilience, tell us about what happened that you left the military.
Well, I really loved the military. And I'm going to say, for all my women veterans, especially any veteran, but especially my women veterans out there, if, there's some of us out there who our careers started off really bright and shiny. We were kicking butt and taking names. I hope that's okay to say here. And we were doing the thing. And we didn't see the other side of the Air Force until something cataclysmic came into our lives. And in my case, that something cataclysmic was a car accident. A young man was driving too fast, 19 years old, in the rain, didn't get around me fast enough when the car in front of me stopped and rear-ended me. And I ended up with they called it TBI at the time. It's since been downgraded. But I ended up with a brain injury that basically left me unable to really form sentences, to concentrate. Like if you asked me a question, it might take 30 seconds for the answer to actually come from my mind to my mouth. And I would try to say this was a phone, and I would call it a cup. And so it was just one of the worst experiences of your life when you know that you have this mental capacity, but you cannot express yourself. You can't communicate with anybody else. I experienced over the next year and a half, people put me off to the side like I was being put out to pasture. And I got to tell you, I got some insight into what the people that I now work with in the nursing homes are going through. And, our culture doesn't have, especially military culture, does not have tolerance for people that have injuries and things like that. If you can't give me a result right away, I don't have any use for you. And that's just not true. So if anybody's facing those kinds of issues, before we continue with the story, I just want to let you know that you may be down, but you're not out. And if you still have breath in you, there is still something that God can do with your life. It doesn't matter how much experience, I don't want to say old, but how much experience you have. It doesn't matter how many injuries you have. It doesn't matter how many times life has knocked you down. If you're not all the way down, if you got breath to hear my voice, then you can get up and do something with your life.
Oh, amen, sister, preach it.
Yeah. But unfortunately, the Air Force didn't feel that way. And in fact, I was celebrating as I was prepping for this today, because I realized this accident. Wait, before I tell you when it happened, let me tell you what the neurologist told me. He said, I'm going to recommend that the Air Force put you out, and you're going to go home and just be with your family. And I'm like, well, I can't get a job unless you help me heal. I need you to help me heal. He's like, you're not going to heal. You've got about 5 to 10 years of a good brain left. And then after that, you're going to be a vegetable. So go hug your kids and play with them while you can. And at that time, that's what he told me. And at that time, it was really hard for me, because I, at that time, was the chief of protocol for 31,000 person command. I had previously been deputy chief scientist for that command. And now I couldn't even make monopoly change with my son. And here I am, this highfalutin big brain, and now I'm nothing. And this guy's telling me, he's got the white coat on. So of course I believe what he's saying, But the Lord said not so. And when the Air Force decided they weren't going to send me to neurology, I scraped my coins together. It took me a couple years, but I scraped my coins together, and I went to the Amen Clinic in Atlanta. And I did. And they have one in Dallas now. So when I go for follow-ups, I don't have to go as far. But we made the trek to Atlanta, and they did the brain scan, and they looked at the areas where I had injury, and some areas that they could help, and some areas they didn't think they could help. But diet, sleep, water, oxygen, extra oxygen. And there's a lot of things that we can control. And today, if you didn't know me, you wouldn't have known that I had that car accident in 2017, which this would be the 10th year.
I did not hear that whole story. So, oh my gosh, that's incredible. Wow.
Yep. Yes. May of this year will be 10 years since that neurologist told me I had 5 to 10 years of a good brain left. And I know I'm not health-wise, I got too much of a belly, but I'm not on any meds. I'm not on any neurology meds anymore. I'm not on any heart meds, sugar meds, none of those things. Wow. And I am an international company helping women get out of debt and build their businesses and invest in real estate. So I think I'm doing something right.
Oh my gosh, you are definitely. And speaking of helping people get wealthy, your website here is ladiesofwealth.com. Tell us about that. What's that all about?
That is my podcast website. It's one of the favoriteest things that I do. I get to answer questions that people write in and talk about how they can get out of debt, how they can afford college, nobody can afford to buy a house anymore. So we walk through strategies. Like, if you legit can't afford to buy a house in today's world, but you don't want to pay rent for the next 20 years, what can you do? There are ways to buy property without taking on debt. Maybe you, like me, have an ex-husband or ex something who's who let's just say they're not good with money, and you continue to be on loans with them from almost 20 years ago because you refuse to pay their bills. And
Yeah.
so you can't go get a loan. There's ways to still buy property. I have a nice portfolio of properties and I didn't have to use loans to get them. And so we teach people things like that. And it's so much fun. I mean, my main website is Conway Financial Group, or jjconway.org. My main company is Conway Financial Group, but I love the podcast. It's a lot of fun. And we record live on Thursday nights. So if you want to jump in and ask questions, or, we welcome everyone.
It's amazing. And speaking of that story, that's another story that to me is powerful if you don't mind sharing it. Another overcoming thing. I'm a counselor and I've got several women that I'm working with, two of them last night, that don't know how to move on with their children because they're in so much debt. How are we ever going to make it on our own without that guy that
Mm-hmm.
is, whatever, abusive, drinking, whatever it might be? How did you do that? How bad was it?
My heart really goes out to anybody who's in that situation, because I look at what I had to do to get out of my situation, and I had a job that at least paid the basic bills. I can't imagine, like, I'm a stay-at-home mom now. I mean, I'm a stay-at-home mom who runs a little side business called Conway Financial Group, right? But my focus at home is always on my family. And so, if something were to go south now, it'd be a lot harder for me to climb out of that. And when that divorce happened, I ended up with over $800,000 of debt. And that's a lot of, like, 800,000 little voices saying, you failed, you failed, you failed. And at the time, I was a major in the Air Force, so I was a pretty decent rank, making six figures, but I couldn't pay my bills. And I had to call them up and be like, I am so sorry, but I cannot pay this bill. And it was very, very humbling. But it taught me that anybody can climb out if you're willing to take it. And the cool thing about us taking charge of our future, especially those who are people of faith, and if you're not, you can still try it, because I found that it works for my clients who share my faith, and it works for my clients who have other faiths, is when you make a commitment to your future, the universe opens up doors for you. And I didn't have to pay for a whole lot of things when I was $800,000 in debt. Tickets fell out of the air. People were willing to barter. I was able to exchange childcare for this or do that. And we always found a way to still have a healthy, wonderful life with my son, and work towards paying off debt. But it was not rainbows and unicorns. $800,000 is a lot of debt to pay off, and it took a lot of work. And it also took me getting out of the mind frame of, he did this to me. See,
Right.
a lot of veterans have this problem where you go away, and this is kind of what happened to me. Some of it was my own decisions. Like, I shouldn't have signed on some of those loans that he kind of pressured me. People say they made me do this, they made me do that. No, they pressured us and we yielded.
Yeah.
So that's the first start, was taking that ownership. But, I yielded and I took on some of those loans. But also, while I was deployed, you give your spouse, you give somebody in your life power of attorney over your affairs. And a lot of military people come home to find out that their spouse has spent all their money, taken on loans, bought new property, bought new cars, and got a new spouse.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's a devastating climb, and it's one of those things. It's one step at a time, and you have to find what works for you.
Yes.
See, I was a high enough rank. I couldn't just go deliver pizzas.
Yeah.
I had to find something else to do. And I did find other things to do. And then I had some breathing room. And then I discovered, hey, I'm actually pretty good at teaching. So I started teaching about real estate investing and getting out of debt. And guess what? It's free to teach.
Yes, it is. And
So
you're doing really well.
And that's what helped me through unloading that debt.
Well, and I know I took one of JJ's courses that she has. Amazing. That was a 30-day challenge. I don't know if that's still available, but wow, it really gave me some insight into getting down to the nitty-gritty of my own finances and having to face the, spending I was doing and why, and really making you think things through. And then I love how you help people with the perspective shifting on what money's all about, and that it's okay to have it. And
Yeah.
and how to go about getting it. So I love your podcast. I really enjoy listening to it, and how you challenge and give people tips and tools that I'd never thought about. So I hope that they check you out on that. Now, another place they can find you is your youtube.com. JJ Knows the Way. What's that all about?
That's a fun. I love my YouTube channel. It's so much fun. The podcast episodes do get posted on the YouTube channel. We also have some random streams, and then we have what we call Walk with JJ, which is unscripted, raw. Sometimes, if I'm tired, it goes all around the world in spaghetti, but it's a lot of fun. And it's an opportunity for me to just kind of connect with people and answer questions on the fly, because some things that you want to talk about aren't necessarily in a specific financial lane, but it's still questions people come to me with, and I don't want to ignore them, but that's just got to find the right place to talk to them about it. So on YouTube, we are redoing that 21-day course. We're updating it for the new branding, the Ladies of Wealth branding. So we had a different company that we were using at that time, and now that we're rebranding that into the Ladies of Wealth brand, and so you'll be able to get that again soon. Anybody watching, just stay connected with me, but it'll be on the YouTube as well. So we have a whole thing. There's a playlist out there on what is it called? I should have thought about that. I should have looked at it before we came on. It's a new client series.
Okay.
And I mistakenly made it public. And then I was like, I'm not taking it down. We're just going to leave it here. So it goes through even more detail. And I know today's world, we don't like to get into the details, especially with money, because we think money's too complicated, or we think it's boring, or we think we're not going to be able to get it. Many of us have been told that all our lives, especially women. But it's not that complicated. And so we break things down step by step. We have a big video. If you're like me and you like the big videos, when each one of those big videos is broken down into little 5 to 7 minute snippets for people who, maybe you only have 7 minutes. You locked yourself in the bathroom for 5 minutes while your kids are playing.
Yeah. That's what I loved about your stuff, is that, you can tell that you did a talk, but then you broke it down, and I really like that. So that's a great place. Another place you can find JJ is your Facebook page, and that's Dr. JJ Conway. So that's there for people. And what do you have on your Facebook thing? That's just a good place for them to connect with you?
I think so. I mean, I'll be honest with y'all. I get so much spam on Facebook. I probably don't answer messages like I should, but I like to see the comments, and I try to answer most comments. Of course, now that I say that, I had one from Linda that I don't think I answered, but I try to get in there, and I just post random observations from the day, and I try to make it an uplifting place for people to connect. And the DR, I'm glad I did that when I did. Someone suggested it as motivation to finish the doctorate, and Facebook is cracking down on stuff like that. So I'm very glad I locked that in when I did.
Okay, that you can't put DR down if you're not really a DR, I imagine.
Well, no, they don't even want people to put those things in there anymore.
Oh, really?
Like you'll see people with names like, I'm the goat, the flower power child or something like that, and they don't even want you to put that kind of stuff anymore. So
how strange. Okay, but on her other social medias, if you just go to @JJ Knows the Way on all those other things, LinkedIn and Instagram and some of those.
Instagram, I think Threads. The only one that's not JJ Knows the Way is TikTok, because somebody took that. So it's JJ Knows the Way Real. But I'm still learning TikTok and getting into it. So there's not a whole lot of content there yet.
Okay. And keep up the good work on that. So I got to know you through, I don't even know how, but we met somehow, and I took your course, and then I did a thing for you, and then you invited me last year to go and speak, which is how this whole veteran podcast got started, was because you invited me to go speak at this amazing veteran retreat in Michigan, which you guys are doing again. or we're doing again because you've invited me to be a part of it again. But what? Since this is a veteran podcast, what information, what recommendations do you have for veterans? How do you help veterans? Do you have anything that you can say that you could offer?
Absolutely. So I know, like for me, I'm the chair of what we call Erath County Veterans, and one of the things that we do with our veterans is like we help if the DAV can't transport them to appointments, we'll try to help transport. We provide a lot of camaraderie and listening. Like there have been some horrific stories, especially some of our Vietnam vets have told me, and they're looking at me, waiting for me to flinch and be like, "Oh, I don't want to be around you anymore because I just heard what you did." And that's not the case. We welcome every veteran. We understand that sometimes we've been in positions or we've been under the stress and we've acted in ways that we're not proud of. And we've been able to wrap our arms around those folks and help them reconcile with their families, help them reconcile with themselves.
Yes,
And that's one
absolutely.
end. Yeah, and that's one end of the spectrum. And then the other end of the spectrum, and this is where that Michigan Women's Veterans Retreat is so special to my heart. And we're actually duplicating that down where I live in Texas, is
Really?
because, yes, I'm excited. It'll probably be 2027 because I couldn't, we had the Camp Mystic floods.
Yes.
So the whole tragedy there, it kind of pushed everybody back from being able to run camps. And the
Yeah.
camps are just now starting to reopen. And so I didn't have the lead time I needed for the camp I want. But I'm very thankful that, something good is coming out of the tragedy and that other camps are made more safe as a result. But anyway, with the women veterans in Michigan, this will be the 4th year. And it's so precious to me. No, it's going to be the 5th. Ooh,
Fifth year,
I
I
think
think
it's the
Tina
5th year,
said.
5th
Yeah, I think that's what
anniversary.
Tina
Yeah.
said. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Easily distracted. One of the biggest things is that a lot of times in our military journey, people they just flat out don't believe you when you talk about the things that happened to you. And women in the military, not even just looking at us being a minority woman, but just a woman, period, in the military, so much has happened to us. And even when I think about the military today as to what it was when I came in 32 years ago, or when I first got off the bus as a cadet at the Air Force Academy, 33 years ago. Wow, I'm old. They the change in what women had to do or felt they had to do or were pressured to do to be able to get ahead is night and day. We have come very, very far as a military in our acceptance of women, but it's still not where it needs to be. And there's still tragedies that happen every day. And we feel like we don't have anybody to connect with who understands. We feel like we don't have anybody who cares.
Yes.
And when we can get the ladies together and share stories and realize, oh my goodness, I'm not alone. And to
Right.
me, that's the biggest thing from these is I'm not alone. I mean,
Yes.
some of us can't even park in a veterans parking spot without somebody coming and being rude to them or saying you're not a veteran. I have a friend who lost her legs in an IED explosion in the desert, and she has the handicap placard and she has a Purple Heart or something like that placard, but I don't think she has it on her plates. And so when she parks in the veterans parking spot, even though she's coming in and out of the car with stubs, they still leave nasty notes on her truck and they still have something bad to say about her being a veteran. And it's just so heartbreaking. Like everybody wants to say thank you for your service, but it's like we can't acknowledge that women had service too.
Right. Yes. And what was tragic to me is to learn the outrageous number of women who have MST, which is military sexual trauma. Not only women, but men. And
Yes.
and that's so sad that has happened. But there is healing. There is hope. And
Yes.
I just really appreciate everything you're doing, and the women that have been on my podcast so far are just amazing, offering tons of resources, which I'm putting together a resource sheet. So anything you have to JJ to put on the resource sheet, all of these connections will be on the podcast So you can just look in the description and find JJ's links, and we'll put that other information in there. I am with Purpose Driven Recovery Academy, and I've got courses as well that I offer. The one I'm going to be launching soon is called Learning to Live with Whatever Ails You. So whether it's ADD, alcohol, drugs, mental health of any kind, trauma, it is chronic pain. There is healing, there is recovery, and yet we need it to do it together. It's always better together. So these resources will be in the description. JJ, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. Thank you again for your service and for what you continue to do. And the miracle of your healing is just really inspiring. So thank you again, and God bless you.
Thank you for having me, Linda. I can't wait for next time.
Okay.
I'm speaking it now. There's going to be a next time.
There will be a next time. All right. Take care, my dear.
Bye.
Bye-bye.